Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clarity Astrology, and today we're going to be talking about the Virgo full moon that's happening on February 24th. And if you live in Mountain Time like I do, that's 5:30 a.m. at 5 degrees of Virgo. So that means that this is a full moon where the sun is going to also be at 5 degrees, but of Pisces, the opposite sign. And that's definitely something that I was getting really strong in the messages around this full moon is a big emphasis on this kind of mystical and intuitive Piscean energy. I think not only because the sun is in Pisces, but also because Saturn is right next to the sun in Pisces as well. And the ruler of this moon, because this is a Virgo full moon, is Mercury. And Mercury is also in Pisces next to the sun. So we have Mercury, Sun, and Saturn all kind of sandwiched together opposite the moon in Virgo. And so what's also interesting with this whole mystical message is that we have the moon at 5 degrees of Virgo. And in Sabian symbols, this is talking about being able to kind of see the unseen. It talks about like the fairy world and imagination and intuitive senses and feeling like you're being essentially driven or guided by things that are outside of your physical awareness, but that you can really know or feel within you. And so I think many of us could have heightened senses during this period of time because Mercury is in Pisces. Mercury is in detriment here, so we aren't able to fully always trust our kind of logical planning side. And it's not that we can't trust it, because we do have Saturn here, which does kind of ground our logic and help us make a plan. But it's more so that we are not always like super clear on things. Things tend to be more abstract. We can be kind of driven by our emotions a little bit more. We don't always have just the most accurate view of things. Saturn, again, does kind of ground us and help us make a plan, but ultimately Mercury and Pisces still has a little bit of this energy that is just, again, overshadowing kind of the rational, logical side of our mind, and instead helping us tap into more of the intuitive and feeling mind. And this can be helpful to pour into Virgo topics. So this could be, for example, our health, our digestion. This is very Virgo in nature. Our perspective on how to organize things and how we want our day to flow and function and create systems in our lives. What if we actually looked at that through a different, more abstract, intuitive lens? And the reason for this is because normally systems and health and all these things function a lot better from the logical mind when we have a clear idea of what's going on. Yes, that's true. But sometimes we have maybe more holistic issues or things that are more pervasive or have things that are influenced from the outside in more subtler ways. So for example, maybe there's a better way of going about taking care of your health that isn't just super logical, that you might actually be influenced by the season that we're in, or the transits that are going on, or emotional ties and things that are happening within relationships that are affecting you subconsciously. And all these things are subtle and not necessarily something that you can see on paper. And so oftentimes we might be guided to further explore the logic or the concrete things in our life, like health, like systems, like routines, like how we manage our life and our mind, but through an abstract, intuitive sensing of what am I feeling here? What is what is my intuition or my guides trying to tell me in meditation about this specific issue? What am I wanting to, I guess, illuminate, because it's a full moon and have clarity around, but it comes more from a place from within rather than, again, the logic. And so I hope that I'm explaining this well, because I feel like I'm even explaining it in an abstract way. We might even also feel like our days are going about in a less methodical way. We are kind of flowing with our moods, or we're feeling a little bit more lethargic and less, I guess, active and productive. We might feel a little bit more spacey or like a little bit more interested in fantasies and interested in our imagination and visions. And so why don't we just lean into that instead of forcing ourselves to have the same day every day? Why don't we just lean into the energy of maybe today I'm not as productive, but I read a really great book and watch a really interesting sci-fi novel movie. Maybe I'm getting things done, but I'm really listening to my body around the timing of when to get things done instead of just having a strict schedule. And so there obviously can be a balance, but this is really our time to tap into what is inside to inform the logic and the structures and the health and the routines of our day-to-day life, rather than just adhering to our set expectations year round. So hopefully that's making sense. I pulled an archetype card talking about the flame archetype, which is all about intention and vision and focus and passion, and making sure that we are protecting that sense of purpose or that sense of intention. And so I think that that's also part of what this is it's trying to bring in not only the direction that Virgo inherently is good at kind of creating. Okay, what's the next right step? How do we create a plan? Also, Saturn being on the sun also asks us to think long term. What is that plan? What's that vision for ourselves within Pisces? But then on top of that, so we have that logical plan, we have that intention or focus, but how do we protect it and how do we cultivate that flame? And a lot of this is more of a mystical experience, more of a spiritual experience, how we keep ourselves emotionally engaged with something or feeling aligned with our purpose from the inside out. And I think that's a lot of what Mercury in Pisces is asking from us during this full moon. I think it's also important because we're meant to protect the flame even when the wind is blowing. That's what the card was saying. And I like this because I feel like Saturn being by the sun is creating this resiliency and this almost like this permanency of, yes, I'm invested in this and I'm going to do what it takes, even on a spiritual, intuitive, emotional level, to transform my life to continue to carry this flame forward. And so it feels like we're getting all of ourselves on board and we're doing what we need to do to ensure that we're keeping our intention and our focus and our clarity and our purpose and our sense of direction protected, again, from the ethereal to the physical plane. So it's a weird full moon to explain, not only because Mercury is in Pisces and it's kind of throwing me for the loop, but also because I think it's a little bit more metaphysical and not super tangible like other full moons can be. So this has the energy of the poet, of the mystic, and of the shaman. So if you guys are wanting to move into those energies in some type of way, maybe you do a medicine ceremony, maybe you write a poem, maybe you do a drum circle, but there's something where it's like maybe we can embody a state of flow or an altered state of consciousness where divine can speak through us and give us messages about how to cultivate and protect our flame, about what our intention really is, about how to refine and better our material reality through spiritual means. And that's what I think is super, super important during this full moon. Something else that I'm seeing, let me come back to that. So we also have Venus and Mars conjunct in Aquarius, making a square to Jupiter. So Venus and Mars are the masculine and the feminine principles coming together. And I often see this, when I see this like natally, for example, I will often see people have a kind of like they've come here as like people who are meant to reset something in their life, often associated with relationship patterns. However, when we see this in a transit, that might still apply, but to different areas of our life. Being in the sign of Aquarius, I guess it depends on where Aquarius falls in our chart, but I'm almost getting the sense that like we're trying to reset something and have like a new path be born with these planets coming together in an Aquarius related theme. So for some of you, you might be interested in studying, energy working, for example, Chinese medicine. These are all very Aquarian topics, new age themes, or new technology, herbalism, like all these different types of careers that tend to have progressive ideas behind them. So some of you guys might be interested in that in a literal sense, and then other of you guys might just be interested in having some kind of new path emerge in your life wherever you have the house of Aquarius, and to do it in a way that is, again, outside of the box, because Aquarius is meant to be like that. So let's say, for example, you have Venus and Mars in Aquarius in your 10th house. Then you might be looking at how to approach the way that you've handled your planning, or the way that you've handled your goal setting, or the way that you are kind of directing your energy within your career to handle those things in a unique way with this Aquarian energy. Think about it differently and try to have some kind of reset or new path emerge as a result of trying a new style of doing things, or even having a new type of goal. This is also squaring Jupiter. These planets are squaring Jupiter. So I think we can get divine wisdom and visions on how to actually do this. But sometimes when it squares Jupiter, we can get ahead of ourselves, and we can like have lots of ideas, but not always have the way of grounding them into reality, or the understanding of how long that's going to take. It's like we can, again, kind of get the cart before the horse. And the Venus and Mars energy is the flame. I see this as the flame archetype because it's the passion of the man and the woman, the masculine and feminine principle coming together and birthing something new. And that's really why I see there's being some kind of reset, but in an Aquarian way, again, because Aquarius is all about not just like, okay, we're going to reset, but we're going to reset in a way that has the energy that is very inventive, solution-oriented, progressive, and thinking outside of the box. So I would invite you guys to ask yourself, where do I have Aquarius in my chart? And is there some way that I could stoke my flame and start some kind of new birth something new in this area of my life, a new path that is outside of the box from the way that I've been doing it before, thinking about it before. Jupiter is also sextiling Saturn, and this is kind of coming out of a sextile, but we still have the gift of Saturn giving Jupiter a little bit of lead feet, which is positive in this case because Saturn can be so buoyant that it doesn't know how to ground its ideas into reality. So this can affect your Venus and Mars conjunction, but having that square to Jupiter, but Saturn here can also mitigate that and support your dreams and bring them into reality. Saturn also being on the sun can help support your dreams and bring them into reality as you get a little bit more of like a sobering dose of what could be real. So it's like we can get ahead of ourselves, but then Saturn also can be there as a reminder of what the reality is, so that we can mitigate our behavior. Maybe some of us will jump and get ahead of ourselves. Maybe some of us will lean into Saturn more and feel like not as buoyant. So it's just going to kind of depend on how we handle this energy. One of the things that I think we need to be careful of, especially with, Saturn being on the sun, Saturn being close to Mercury, is the way that we are perceiving something being like negatively skewed. The other archetype that I pulled was the mirror. And the mirror is all about, specifically said, having a portal to another realm. And I feel like that's exactly what we're gaining access to right now. It's like we're getting glimpses of what could be through this very intuitive psychic energy of Pisces, and having this flame stoking with this masculine feminine principle coming together within Aquarius, within our hearts. It's like exciting something, creating something, brewing something up with the universe. It's not fully manifested. It's not fully clear yet, but there's something that's brewing again that can really help us have this portal to another realm or see something else that's possible. But also sometimes what happens with this mirror is that we don't always see it for what it is. We can sometimes see it like a mirage, or we can distort what we're seeing in the mirror. Especially with Saturn, we can we can tend to distort things and think about ourselves or our perception of something a little bit more negatively. And so that's something that we need to be aware of. There can be both excessive optimism and excessive pessimism that comes with the distortion of reality. And so finding yourself, kind of bringing yourself back to reality in a way to see, to look through the mirror and see what's possible, but not get lost in the in that spectrum of either good or bad or the things that could be, is going to be really important to understand if your perception is distorted or if your self-esteem is taking a hit unnecessarily, and really just trying to have compassion with ourselves, speaking gently with ourselves, trying to reflect ourselves at least clearly within this process of accessing other realities, basically. Wow, I feel like a lot of this full moon forecast is just so out there. I feel like I'm having a hard time even communicating these messages, and I hope that it makes sense. I kind of feel like it doesn't. So let me know down below if it makes sense for you guys. I'm going to go into what this will look like for all the signs. But again, this feels like this very mystical, mirage, unclear, intuitive type of energy that we are gaining access to right now. And we're trying to capture parts of it almost in a way. And use that to kind of refine and better and improve our lives, because this is a Virgo full moon. And, you know, I think there can be distortions along the way. There can be things that we think are going to be worse or better than they are. And so I think it's best to just kind of ride out this full moon and tap into more of the meditative experiences or altered states of consciousness, rather than trying to sit down and make a plan and get super clear. Because that's, with Mercury, the ruler of this moon, in detriment, it's not really the best time to trust our true perspective. We might lack that. So I hope this makes sense. I'm really sorry if it doesn't, but yeah, hopefully all of the rising and sun signs will be even more tangible for you guys.